Anne-Veronica, thank you for gracing me with your presence, darling.
Hey, Lindy.
So, welcome to our little spotlight chat. So, basically, I'm doing these chats within the Global Network of Light to really get to know our practitioners a little bit more, find out what makes you tick, find out what draws you to the Global Network of Light. And what I do know is that everybody's really enjoying your Inspired by Soul sessions,
Yeah, they seem to
um,
be.
which we run fortnightly on a Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. And basically, they have a different theme. Your business is called Rainbow Light Reflection. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, tell us a little bit about your biz, because I've known you, fuck me, excuse my language, I reckon about 15, 16 years.
Long time.
Long
Long
time. So we
time.
know each other because we did a lot of development and training together in the early days. We've seen things come and go in this
Yeah,
industry, haven't we?
yeah, certainly have. I think I started officially Rainbow Light Reflections in about 2013 oh no, must have been earlier than that. Anyway, it's been a long time. Um, uh, Rainbow Light Reflections came about, even just the name for me was significant. I was telling somebody the other day, the only thing I remember from high school science is Roy G. Biv, and it was about rainbow colors and reflections. And to me, I was really interested in, the chakra colors, and I was doing beading at the time, like crystal beading and jewelry and whatnot. And so that's where that name came from. But it really reflected the capacity um, for variance, for everything, for holistic viewpoints of things. And so I wasn't even really pushing for it to be a business in the sense of I'm going out and doing readings for anybody. It was simply a reflection of me and how I saw the world at that point.
Amazing.
Um, in terms of what I offer under that banner, and for those who, have also known me for a long time, they would know that my background is in community services, in counselling, in youth work and child protection work. So it was all very much everything that I do is based on the premise that we are here sharing our energy with other people so that they may be empowered, so that they may make choices, informed choices in their own right. And so my background in dealing with trauma and crisis and creating a space where people feel safe and comfortable to express and to evolve and to clear, I use that as that backdrop for all my intuitive work. So whether it's intuitive counseling work, whether it's mediumship, whether it's clairvoyancy, um, and even past lives, I do past life regressions, past life reading, and I find that there is so many overlaps, so many aspects of our personality that on a soul level is a long time coming. It's not just a
Absolutely.
stop start, this is who I am right at the moment. Next time I'll be totally different. So it's all about healing to me. It's all
Yes.
about giving people um, back some uh, a forum or a space for them to feel seen, heard, validated, acknowledged, and empowered.
Yes. So you're an absolutely natural psychic and medium, which of course is what drives your work. It's I guess, the baseline of
Yeah.
who you are and your expression of being human in this world, which is not an easy expression at times, but it feels to me as if in these current times, genuine psychics and mediums are certainly um, being favored more favorably. God, that didn't quite come out correctly. But it feels like, genuine psychics and mediums have really got something to share. And I know for you, your abilities go quite far back. So my question to you is, when did you know that you had these otherworldly abilities and the ability to connect both psychically and with spirit?
You know, it's an interesting question because I know that there are lots of people who have always felt spirit, you know, from childhood all the way through. And with what I've just said as well, and coming from a place of real integrity, you know, when we talk about genuine something or others, um, my capacity to read people, read energy, read situations was never called psychic or clairvoyant or mediumistic. It was because I was working so closely with people who were in such a vulnerable state that we called it professional intuition. You know, you get to read people, you get to recognize where people are at and how they're presenting and the masks that we all wear. And so it wasn't really until a trauma, a tragedy occurred as part of my work situation where we lost a very young child who I was working with under the banner of child protection that the door opened to the spirit world. Up until that point, I mean, I had um, worked in, well, not so much worked in, but I was very interested in astrology. I was very interested in past life regression. And so they were the two areas that I delved into, trained in, practiced in many years before I ever uh, connected directly to spirit. So probably around 30 years old or something, as a result of, as a direct result of my own shock and my own response to the passing of this little girl. Uh, I literally was sitting in my lounge room and I could feel my grandmother around. So, and I remember Mavis Patilla, very, you know, well-known medium from the UK, who said sometimes we crash land into mediumship. And
Mm.
that's exactly what it felt like. I crash landed into it. And even from that point, I mean, if I started hearing spirit and, you know, 24 hours a day, and what do I do with that? How do I equate that with the rest of my life? How do I process and utilize that connection? It was never my intention nor even my thought to become a reader or anything like
Mm.
that. Um, I was intrigued, I was fascinated, I was like blown out of the water. Uh, but it was only when I started grounding and when I met people who became my mentors, and you know, one in particular who said, I need to tie a string to your feet so that you don't fly off, you know, float away with the pixies. Because when you're focused all up in here, it's like, how do you continue to live your physical life? Um, so I did a lot of it's. I spent at least a year just grounding, just coming to terms with, well, shit, this happened. um, and then I started noticing more on a psychic level. So I didn't ever use what we would class as psychic intuition prior to hearing spirit. Like that just wasn't, that came after. Um, and it was back in the old MSN chat room days without a microphone, without cam. So it was just in type. And I found myself responding to people in conversation. And what I was actually doing was channeling. Um, along the continuum. So inspired writing through to channeling, whatever you want to call that. But I was responding, and people were saying, wow, that's their words straight from my mother's funeral or something. And I'm like, ooh, okay, this is interesting. um, so it didn't, yeah. So probably 28 years ago, roughly, I've
It's a whole
been
lifetime.
living with that awareness,
Mm.
and what it did was cement really what I had always felt was available in terms of us being able to tap in energetically with people. uh, So that's where the intuitive counseling came in, because a lot of people who had come for me for counseling, for whether I was the case manager or therapist or whatever, um, it was really hard to let your guard down. It's really hard to trust after an experience, or complex experiences of trauma. Whereas people ended up coming, a couple of years down the track after I connected with spirit, people were coming for readings, and they were giving all their power straight over to me.
Mm,
And I'm like, hold on a minute, and people asking for advice, people asking me to tell them what to do. I'm
mm.
like, that's not my vibe. That's not who I am. That's not what's in your best interests. So rather than spend, 6 sessions building rapport in a counseling framework, I was able to build rapport with people on an intuitive level.
Mm.
Um, and there is so much healing that is available and called for when people come for readings. So, if somebody sits in front of me and asks if their house will sell, and how it will sell, sure, I can look at that. But my drive, my where I come from, it's about healing the soul,
Mm.
or healing the emotional human side of us, so that our soul may be better expressed.
I love that. I see so many interesting parallels in our journey because obviously, I mean, you've been on this path for at least a decade longer than what I have. But I see the interesting parallels, I guess the MSN journey as well. Like that's how I started reading for people was literally just over type. And it's
Yeah,
incredible. I read for a lady or young woman this morning and who'd never had a reading before. And she was like, that's just phenomenal. She said how you can do that over
yeah,
the internet, but it's just like second nature for me. Um, and the other thing I was going to ask you is how do you actually prepare for a reading? What's your process when you prepare for a reading? Because for me, it it's not just a matter of opening the door. Sometimes it is, but for me, it's like the whole morning, like I'm getting into that space of reverence, and it's not just about that half hour or that
yeah,
45 minutes. And the reading doesn't really end there because I feel like energetically, especially if it's recorded, I say to
yeah,
people, it's a little bit like the gift that keeps on giving because you find little tidbits in it, that make sense days, weeks, or sometimes
yeah,
even
for sure.
years later.
Yeah. A couple of things about that, I suppose. Um, One, in terms of preparation, and actually, I'll start with back in when it was just type. When I first started reading for people, the fact that they were there and present in front of me was a real distraction, because I wasn't used to that. It's
I
like,
understand that
oh, look,
100%.
stop, don't look at me, don't move, don't,
Yes, I still do
um,
that. Look away and like, don't look at
yeah,
the
I
faces.
I tell people now, look, I'm not going to look at you, and don't take offense at that, but I'm off in the ether somewhere. And after a full day of reading, especially at expos and whatnot, my eyes can't focus because I've been off in Never Never Land. Um, in terms of preparation, look, I'm not very. I used to say I'm not very disciplined, but it's not about discipline. And sometimes, rituals and everything are beautiful, and they create the space, and they hold you in that space. And I love that. But it's not something that I have to do, or that I do regularly. One thing though is I went to a retreat, regular retreat, as you know, and there we used to do a what do we call it, the chant walking thing. What was the um anyway? It's like a Buddhist
I know
chant,
what you mean. Yes.
yeah, whatever it is. Um, but that music keeps coming back to me. It's like I have, and I've laughed about this over the years too. I've got this internal jukebox going on, and I visualize it's like somebody's up there with the DJ, and
I
they
love
just,
it. You've
put
probably got
on
a
different,
DJ guide, darling.
yeah, different, and I can go from one extreme, I can go from 70s country music to modern day hip hop in an instant. Like, so I use that as a bit of a, I used to use it as a bit of, that's the signs, what are the songs about? But what I find now is that those songs, like that chant, brings me back to a space where I was in the bubble for the week at the retreat. And so it instantly brings me to that, okay, I'm ready, I'm prepared.
Mm.
And I used to intentionally think of that music so that I could get prepared, but now it just comes. Like, even at the thought of, oh, I've got a reading in half an hour, and instantly that music will arrive. Um, and so it's a bit like setting the scene.
Mm.
Um, the other thing is I try and clear space, not, just energetically clear space, because I know that in the past several times, Spirit have reminded me, Spirit as in, my own loved ones or, guides or whoever, um, have commented, wow, it's standing room only here, as if
I
my
love
aura
that.
is jam packed with people, and that's what I used to feel. It's like everyone was talking
Mm.
over the top of each other because I started off clairaudient, and I'm like, okay, step back, leave some space for mingling, So I intentionally, okay, let's clear the space so that whoever I'm reading for, they have an opportunity to sit within that space energetically, and their loved ones have room to move.
Mm.
Um, so that's probably all I do in that sense.
Beautiful. It's straight
Um,
and to the point, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Because I think sometimes, we can get a little bit lost in the ritual and needing to do things a certain way when really it's bringing it down to simplicity and intention.
yeah, and given we've had so many tutors and mentors and whatnot over the years, and they've all got their own way of doing things. One says you can connect with spirit before the reading happens. Others say no, you shouldn't connect until it starts, and backwards and forwards. And
Just do
I,
you, boo.
yeah, I'd get up to do demonstrations thinking, well, shit, I hope somebody turns up because I don't feel anybody around me. And of course, as soon as I open my mouth, it's like, oh, hello,
Yeah,
here they
it's
are.
it's that
Bit of
trust, isn't
trust.
it?
Yeah.
And we've spent years cultivating that trust and trying to teach people how to trust is another story. You can't actually teach people how to trust
No,
what they're
no.
getting. It's a process of, I guess, working through the human layers, working through the human condition. It's a
Yeah,
process of them recognizing their frequency and where their frequency sits,
and
because it's so hard to work through that frequency of self-doubt. So we have to
yeah,
break those walls of self-doubt down.
it's that subtle nature of shifting energies. I remember I went to a workshop once, and the tutor was right next to me. She's clicking her fingers, and it was annoying the crap out of me. But it was the idea of go psychic, go mediumship, go psychic, go mediumship, so that I could recognize the difference between when I'm tuning into spirit or when I'm just connecting
Yes.
intuitively. And it's like, that's what that shift feels like. Once you know
Mm,
the shift, it's easier to trust,
absolutely.
because otherwise it's all doubt. Oh, I don't know if it's my own voice. Oh, I don't know if it's somebody else's voice.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so it's making room, making space, and I don't wait for. I usually equate it with when you're using an interpreter. There's two types of interpreters. There's one who interprets as you speak. Imagine somebody who's signing,
Hmm.
they will sign as you speak, and others who wait for your sentence and then translate.
Right.
If I wait for the
Interesting.
sentence and then translate, I've lost it because
Yes.
it's not my stuff to hold. So I literally open my mouth and say, and I also want to say, and I don't even know what's about to come out of my mouth
Mm.
because it's that instant. All right, I'm hoping that there's words here because I'm ready for them. Come on, give them to me.
What I love about you as a teacher is your use of analogy
Yeah,
and the ability that you have to actually help people understand things by using simple analogy. I don't think it's actually something I am conscious of using because I use a lot of my own life and a lot of my own experiences as analogy, I guess, when we teach. Um, but I absolutely love having you in the Global Network of Light. So for those watching that don't know what the Global Network of Light is, the Global Network of Light is a platform for like-minded souls to come together in these current times. It's a lighthouse, I guess.
Yeah,
It's supporting people through spiritual awakening. People are at different levels of awakening. And it's also supporting people through developing their abilities in whatever way that looks like. It doesn't mean people have to be psychics or mediums, but the whole planet has the ability to deepen their intuitive senses, especially
yes,
during these current times.
yeah,
And for some watching, they might think, well, why did you call it the Global Network of Light? Well, I called it the Global Network of Light because years ago I had a vision of lights joining all over the world and connecting and creating a web of light around the earth. Now, this was before I was aware of any light grids and false grids and or even had the framework for that. And it's not a matter of maybe people joining all over the world, but we have got some international members. I've got somebody from the States, I've got somebody from New Zealand, somebody from the UK. So there's definitely, it does have a global element to
yeah,
it. But the intention is behind it is to connect people. And by connecting our lights, we are creating a web of light around the earth because it is planetary, this shift that
yeah,
humanity is going through, and that we are going through this incredible awakening, which is, I feel, a remembering, because we're remembering things, we're not learning. And so I'm having to shift the language that I use,
yeah, yeah.
because sometimes I feel like I know it all. And then I go, oh, no, I haven't quite remembered everything yet. Do you know what I mean? So, what are your
Um,
thoughts? And thank you so much also for the gifts that you bring into the Global Network of Light,
yeah,
through the Inspired Soul sessions, because I know personally I get a lot out of them. Last night we had a past life regression, which was incredible. And I
yeah, it
could
worked
just
really well.
see everybody's faces and also the experience I had of being actually able to focus, and it really showed me the level of growth and unfoldment that I've had within my own abilities because that vision, I didn't have to think about it. It just
Yes,
occurred. And
yeah,
I didn't, whatever came next just came next. And whatever I saw just was there. I didn't, and I knew it wasn't my logic because I know exactly how my logic feels. And this is
yes,
an aspect of how I teach is for people to recognize their logic and make friends with the logic because you fucking know, excuse my language, how
yeah.
that logic feels. Feels
And
like
that
pushing shit up a hill.
and that's very similar to what I said about the, shifting between psychic and mediumship. Once you recognize that shift, you know whether it's your own voice, whether it's your own, the mechanism of creating a thought, creating a vision, or whether it just drops in out of wherever.
Yes,
And anything that just drops in is meant to drop in like that. Um,
absolutely.
my take on the global network of light and why I enjoy being a part of it. And I said this early on and mentioning the old MSN chat room days. It's it's a container, if you like, of those who choose to be there. There's no trolls. There's no, it's not swamped with ads. The algorithms of social media and whatnot. It's connection because people are ready to connect. And there's no requirement. There's no, you can come in and sit into any of those workshops, any of those circle groups, and it doesn't matter where you're at. You will always get something out of it. I picked up on that word development. I mean, we all use that word development. We develop
Mm.
in so many ways in so many areas of our life. I was reading something yesterday and it was focused on the word learning. Our souls are here to learn. We're incarnated for this physical experience of learning. And learning to me and development, it, it it's like the word should. If you don't do something, you've failed. If we're learning something, we either pass or we fail. We do it or we don't do it. Whereas if
Mm.
you use the word experience,
Oh, I
we're here
love
to
that.
experience. And so what I give back, and in amongst the doing past lives and astrology and counseling and community services stuff. I taught at TAFE for 13 years. So, and prior to that, I wouldn't have ever seen myself in front of a group talking. Like, that's the furthest thing, even further away from my mind, the mediumship would have been. Um, but once I taught for so many years, and I recognized not only the learning styles of people, but if you get back to that using analogies, I can recognize if people start to blank over, I've lost them, you know.
Mm.
So yesterday in that group, last night in that group, when I used the analogy of the wonderment of a child learning to walk. There's no standard, there's no competition, there's nothing to compare to. I don't have to achieve something. I'm not learning something. I'm simply experiencing. Wow, that's what these things do. They I can go be upright.
Love
This
that so much.
absolute wonderment of connecting with people, and our concept of global has shifted too. Once upon a time global was like a long way away,
Hmm.
whereas now, it's next door. You can
Yes.
talk to somebody in Alaska. I did a
Mm.
reading for somebody in Bulgaria. I'm thinking, oh my god, do I even know where Bulgaria is? Like, it's that amazement that
Yes.
I can press a button on a computer, and we are so close and we are so alike. So I like it because it feels safe, and
Yes.
not just for me. I mean, I can create safety for myself, but the container in which, people can step into
Mhm.
and ask whatever they want in the global network of light. And there is no judgment. There's
Yes.
simply, oh, yes, this is a great conversation. And there's such a
Absolutely.
variety of little discussions happening in your group
Isn't
here.
there?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's growing all the time. As the community grows, there might be people that grow their own abilities to a level where they might offer a
yeah,
workshop or something within the group. But we've got a pretty good thing happening. I feel like we've got some things that happen on Mondays, some things that happen on Tuesdays. Thursdays is my mediumship development group, which sometimes you will take the class, which I absolutely think this is fantastic because we
yeah,
both know, that quite often in this industry, there's been a bit of, how can I put this kindly, a bit of jealousy, you know, again, it's just that very human aspect of comparing
yeah,
and lack that there's not enough. But we've got a very dear friend, Sam, who I always quote Sam and I say, well, there's plenty of dead people to go around.
yes, exactly,
Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
And so it just makes it completely
Yeah,
futile. And the fact that, I've got somebody there that if I can't, if I'm traveling or moving, house or whatever, I've got somebody there. I've got you
yeah,
that can actually take my class. And people absolutely love what you offer in there. So I know that they're in absolutely safe hands. And potentially we've got somebody else as well, So to me, it's about sharing the load, I
yeah,
guess, that we're all carrying this together because we know, as psychics and mediums, sometimes we try to carry a lot.
yeah,
And because
sure.
there's been a bit of patterning and a bit of conditioning in this line of work, because we don't want to give away our secrets or worry that so and so is going to copy me and all of this. But here we can actually share the load and we don't take on as much. Our energy is lighter,
Yes.
and there's a sense of service because this is what I feel global network of light is about. It's about service, service to
Yes.
humanity, service to people, who need access to something like this that's really affordable,
Mm, yeah.
because um, a lot of this work's just blown out of proportion price wise, and it's become inaccessible to
And
people.
I think that's, I mean, again, I've had plenty of discussions with people lately about this. Um, it reminds me of when I was doing astrology readings per se. Astrology to me, I mean, it was fascinating and everything, but it was something that I learnt. I studied, I learnt it. It was a process, it was an unraveling. And when you're looking at somebody's chart, then you're purposefully exploring there, which is a
Mm.
very different energy to mediumship. And
Yeah.
so I found it difficult to, oh, I'm over here in the presence of all of this and switching back and forwards in the same space. So if and there's plenty of workers, plenty of readers and healers out there who have a muggle's job, a mainstream other sort of work, and who sort of tend to do this off on the side. But there's also a lot who have given their whole self to this
Mm.
industry. And when that happens and we need an income, then it becomes problematic because an income also means that we need to advertise ourselves, promote ourselves, justify ourselves. And that is so far removed
Mm.
from the energy work that we're doing. So there's this conflict, and then you fall
100%.
into the trap of any other business type of enterprise. And I know so many people in the last 12 months who have stepped away from wanting to promote themselves or wanting to be out there,
Yeah.
particularly now that you can't even advertise in a newspaper anymore. Nobody reads them. So when you've only got social media,
That's
and
right.
my social media page, my Facebook page went down. So all the contacts from 17 years worth
Wow.
of readings all over the world I had lost.
Yes.
So do I start again and push? But I'm not that sort of person.
Yeah.
I'll leave that up to the glamour queens and the
The
publishing
glamour
agents
queens.
and the those who are really good at, yeah,
Promotion. Like it's really tough that that's what it comes down to at the end of the
yeah,
day is
yeah.
how good you are at marketing because
It
yeah,
is,
I'm not
yeah,
great at marketing either. And in fact, actually, those that know me know that I hate the hustle. I fucking hate it.
yeah.
Um, but I let my work speak for itself.
That's it.
These days, after going through a life-changing experience a couple of years ago, that I prefer simplicity. I prefer
Yeah,
sharing the
absolutely.
load, and my whole perspective has changed.
Look, I figured if if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So,
Yeah,
and the funny thing is, I mean, I stepped back a few years ago, as you know, to care for my mum. So I was virtually out of action for 18 months, 2 years. Um, and even after her passing, there was, grief is a human experience that you just need to walk through at
that's right.
whatever pace you walk through it. And so even though I had stepped back in terms of, yes, I can hold space for other people now and I can do readings, but I had to step back from counseling for quite a while because
Mhm.
that was just too heavy for me. Um, but certainly I didn't want to step back into the promotional side.
Yeah,
There is, yeah, there was a real realization that those who are meant to show up will still show up. And what I found is for about 2 years, without any advertising at all, people just, were coming out of the woodwork just from, years and years ago.
yeah,
All word of mouth was still happening.
that's right.
And so that's what I rely on. Um, but it's even more than just readings, to be able to stay relevant, stay current, stay visible in a society that is so hell bent on relying heavily on social media that it lacks personable interaction.
Mm.
Um, and so I forced myself pretty much to go to expos and fairs and whatnot just so that I can mingle with everybody, network and be present, show up in the physical
Mm.
form for people to see. Because otherwise we become, not professionally, but even personally, we become invisible.
Yes.
Everything happens behind a screen like this, and people forget the energetic linking, so that when
Mm.
you said, the lights in the sky and the coming together and the warmth of that, the warmth of comfort, the warmth
Yes.
of connection, that's what that symbolizes to me.
Incredible. Beautiful, darling. And one last question before we bring this incredible chat to a close. What do you feel about the planet? What do you feel about what's unfolding, and where do you see humanity going in the next few years?
Mm,
This
it's
could take another
interesting.
half hour of closing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just a nice little short
Just
subject.
a short little question.
Um, I mean, it's a reflection of how close the world is, how I'm looking above my laptop here. I've actually got a map of Australia and a map of the world on my wall here in my room. I've had it here since I moved into this house. It brings home we are just a speck in that. And if you think of our world as in Earth, we are simply a speck in the greater universe or whatever's beyond universe. I really got to a stage where if I had to turn the news off, like I don't watch the
Mm,
news, I don't know what's going on elsewhere unless it impacts those I'm closest to or those that come up on my feed of different social media things that I'm on. It doesn't mean that I'm ignorant to it, and it doesn't mean that I'm not passionate about it. But I lived for so long driven, fighting, and I was such a strong advocate um, for peace, for resilience, for comfort. Uh, that if I expend all that energy recognizing that the world's going to the pack or that people are crumbling, people are really fragile, then that too takes away my energy to be able to do what I do.
yeah.
And so without ignoring it, without dismissing it, I really focus these days on trying to stay balanced and present to myself.
Hmm.
And if I go back to that aura that gets really busy with spirit, it also gets filled with other people's energy. I always wondered what an empath was. And then when I realized, oh, okay, I'm starting to feel other people's energy, boundaries are so important
Mm.
because, you just get swamped with all that. So back to the question is I choose to um, be mindful of and uh, make choices as an observer of life
Mm.
rather it's not to say I don't partake in life, but being the observer, I still have free will. Being the observer, I can choose to um, participate rather than be conditioned, rather than be dragged under, rather than
Love
be,
that.
pulled into somebody else's battle just because they're, lacking in strength or whatever to do so. And so outcomes, if I disengage from such a strong attachment to an outcome, then there is no I pass or fail. There is no I
Mm.
win or lose. I'm back in that space of I am experiencing life. I am being the observer and connecting, being able to acknowledge, wow, that brings up that emotion, or I observe that emotion in somebody else, and I lend a hand.
Mm.
When spirit talk to me, when spirit connects with me, they talk about take my hand. That's their reference point.
Yeah.
And so, just as if I'm extending a hand to somebody else, I can do so from a place of balance rather than fear.
Yes. And what that shows me is you are living life on your terms. Your version of reality is what you're taking to be true to yourself. And I think that's the issue, is that we get sucked into other people's versions of reality, including the narrative
Yeah,
that's created through
yeah,
media, social media,
yeah,
all of that. And I think this is what people are waking up to.
yeah. Because it's not that I mean, we only have a certain amount of control over other stuff. Um, But what we can control is our response to that.
Yes.
I remember very clearly spirit coming through. I was in somebody's house, a dear friend's house once, years and years ago. And she said, now don't mind the spirit in the house. Like it feels a bit threatening, but you'll be right. And I'm like, what? What are you going on about? And apparently lots of people had walked through the house and they couldn't even get past the lounge room because there was a sense of spirit that was kicking them out, sort of thing. Anyway, I thought, yeah, no worries. And I felt this man in spirit, and I went super, super, super cold. And I thought, righto, and I could feel it's as if he had his arms around, choking the life out of me, like squeezing me. And I'm like, are you right there? And even though logically I knew I was at no risk, there was no fear to be had here.
Mm.
But it was so persistent and lasted for hours and hours. I'm like, bugger off. And then I heard my grandmother come in and said, you control your emotions and we'll worry about the rest.
Yeah.
And we know as humans, fear is the most debilitating emotion that we can have. And even when we feel angry and all the seven emotions that stems from, you know, if we just remember that we do have control, but it starts with us.
Mm.
And so, yes, there is a lot of there's strife, but it's fear and ego and yeah, I mean, so much stuff going on in the world. You can't summarize it in a couple of words, but it's about balance and creating a sense of status quo within ourselves that allows us to buffer against that.
Beautiful, darling. And coming together in a place such as the Global Network of Light,
Yeah, for
where we
sure.
can raise the vibration of the planet together.
Yes,
Indeed.
because we don't have to be competitive. We don't have to
Exactly. There
to
is
you
no
know think about,
competition.
oh, what are they thinking of me while we're in there. It's
Absolutely.
like coming into, it's going to somebody's backyard for a barbecue. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be there Tuesday night, and it's friendly and it's welcoming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, darling. Thank you so much for your incredible wisdom and your insight, and again, your beautiful compassion and love. To have that in the global network of life is such a light is such a gift, darling. It is life.
Yeah,
We're just sailing through life as best we can. And I think we're
absolutely.
doing a pretty good job. I think we're doing the best
Yeah.
we can. And
And
it's just
and my inbox is always open to people. Like it doesn't have to be about booking an appointment. It's simply,
yeah,
drop me a line and
yeah,
we can have a chat.
absolutely. I'm the same. I've got old students that reach out for calls and connections, and I'm like, I'm there because I understand these are really
Yeah.
interesting times we're living in, and I've got the capacity and I've learned to manage my energy, over the years. But beautiful to connect with you, darling. And yes, I will see your beautiful face online very soon. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much, Lindy. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from others.
Lovely, darling. Thank you.